Oh yeah, this is happening. All right, so the wind blew the crap out of the plastic that was on it. That really doesn't matter. The weather was fine coming home. So now we're just gonna get this unstrapped and unloaded. Well, welcome back, guys. As you can see, it's a big day in the shop here. So we're going to go ahead and give you guys a proper introduction to our new RMT bandsaw here. RMT stands for Revolution Machine Tools. I have been able to operate a little bit of RMT equipment, and I've always been pretty impressed with it. As you guys know, I've been shopping for a bandsaw for a couple years now, and this is actually the model that I've been interested in for quite some time. There was a couple different manufacturers that I was looking at and considering purchasing from. All three manufacturers had a model very similar to this one, but we will go over why I decided to go with this machine once we get it all unwrapped and put into place and set up. So I'll go through and I'll get the plastic torn off. My initial thoughts with the process so far: RMT does have another facility in Georgia, and so that's where the bandsaw had to come from. I think it took about a week, which I was pretty impressed with. So that went pretty quick. We'll go ahead and strip the plastic off of this and kind of look at what we've got. All right, guys. So I think before I move the saw into place, let's go over some of the features of the saw and the reason that I decided to go with this manufacturer, with this model. So let's go over some of those things. So first and foremost, RMT does have a facility here in Utah. They're based out of North Salt Lake. The salesman that I worked with was one of the better salesmen that I worked with between the three companies. That does mean something to me. Shopping for a bandsaw is a lot like shopping for a car. And if you guys have ever shopped for a car, you know how much fun it can be. I really wanted to just try to cut through as much of the BS as possible. And I do feel like RMT did a pretty good job with that. That's one of the reasons that I ended up going with an RMT. The model on this one is the SFAB PDM 1014. So that means it'll do 10 inches tall and 14 inches long. So when I started shopping for a bandsaw, there was a couple things that I took into consideration. Number one, footprint. I don't have a huge shop. So for this size of shop, I have to be conservative about how big of equipment I purchase and where I put it. So footprint was one. Another thing was capacity. So I want to be able to cut as big of material as I can while still maintaining that conservative footprint. And I feel like this saw accomplishes both of those things. I knew going into it that I needed to be able to cut 12-inch I-beam at a maximum. That's typically the biggest size of material that I have to wrangle. So I knew, okay, if I'm able to cut, and not on angles, not miters, just a straight cut on 12-inch I-beam, that I would be okay. And so I took the measurements from that and I said, okay, well, a 1014, I know the height of an I-beam, if you lay it on its side, is what, 6.5 inches on the flange side. On the web side, you're about 12.5 on an OD of 12-inch I-beam. So I knew that this would do it. That was a big one for me. I did have a few different models that I was looking at, but I knew this one would accomplish that. Some of the other things I was looking at are the features that I can get for the price point, more bang for my buck. And I felt like with this saw, I was getting more bang for my buck. And when I say that, here's why I say that. So this saw comes with a foot pedal. The purpose of the pedal, we'll go over some of the finer details once we get it all hooked up. But the purpose of the pedal is if I'm running repeat cuts, I can hit the pedal and it will make another cut. It's not an automatic bandsaw, so it doesn't feed the material, cut the piece, feed the material, cut the piece. You have to feed the material in and then it will continue to cut. So if I run the material in to the length that I want, hit the pedal, the vise will close and it will cut. So it's a semi-automatic bandsaw. The foot pedal was one thing, the control panel was another. So I'm going to give you guys a look of the control panel right now. All right, so here's the control panel. Out of all the saws that I looked at, I like this control panel the most, and here's why. I like that everything is real close together, it's compact, and it's all in one place, okay? The other thing I like is this saw is equipped with a hydraulic bow, or the head. So the bow on it can be raised hydraulically. So if I hit this, it'll lift the bow. And trust me, if you're running a lot of cuts, it's just a nice thing to have. This is your variable speed on your blade speed. This is your flood coolant. You got an e-stop. There's some indicators for if the blade binds up, your start, your stop. And then it also has a laser. And the laser, I'm super excited about the laser as well. I think that'll come in handy. It'll be nice not having to, I may still have to make a mark on the tube, but then I'll be able to line the laser right up with it, and it should work great. This is a hydraulic needle valve, and that controls the downfeed speed of the bow. So I like that everything's right here together. I like the way it's laid out, set up. It's all compact. So I really like the control panel. All right, so the next thing I'm really excited about is the vise. The vise on this is hydraulic. And I've ran quite a few bandsaws in the time that I've been a fabricator, a welder. With manual bandsaws like this one, they typically have a manual vise and there's a half nut in there. That's usually the first thing to go out on them or wear out. And then when you go to clamp down on material, it just sits and pops and clicks and you can't ever get it to grab. And so you end up having to tear it apart and replace it. I know because I've done it quite a few times. So I like that it's hydraulic because you get way better clamping power and there's way less to go wrong with it. It's just more of a simple system, but it's more reliable as well. So I really like that. We've got a gauge here, and this is your blade tension. And this is another one of those things that we'll go over a little bit better when we cut material with it. But we've got this cut depth gauge, okay? So as the bow comes down, this goes up. And there's a memory on how thick the material is. That way, if I need to cut multiple cuts, I can come back, I can hit the pedal, and it'll close the vise and start the cut. So that will speed things up. I really like that. I think that's a cool system. Then we move on to the motor that drives the saw. This is a direct drive motor, so there's no belt, and it's just a much more reliable system. It's more torque, a lot more torque. The direct drive, I think is very cool. It also allows you to have variable speed. So you can dial your blade speed in just perfect. So you can see here it's got a flood coolant system, just like the old one I had, but this is a little bit more advanced, little setup. It's set up a little better. It's got carbide blade guides and bearings. And then there's actually a chip brush down here that cleans the blade as it goes around, so you don't get near as much buildup inside the cover of the bow. Another huge feature for me is I wanted a saw that would do miter cuts. You guys know, if you watch the channel, you've seen that I use my Evolution saw for cutting a lot of miter cuts if I've got a lot to cut. If I have to cut them by hand, I usually use a torch, and that just takes so much more time. So for me to be able to do miter cuts on the bandsaw, that's going to save a lot of time. That's going to be a game changer. So this saw will do 45 one direction and 60 degrees one direction. For us to be able to do those miter cuts and get those kind of angles on the bandsaw is going to be awesome. I'm super excited for that. Okay, so you can see that it's a good looking bandsaw. I like the way it's set up. So we've got the cover here to access our blade. The cover flips up and then we can access our blade if we need to change the blade or whatever. Now, I'll open up the panel and show you guys what the electrical looks like. This is another reason that I really liked this saw. Okay, so the other reason that I really like this machine, they already had these in stock with 230 volt single phase, and then I don't have to run my phase converter. So that actually works out really well for anybody that wants to run this out of their garage or something. This is a great option. Okay, so inside here, you'll see all the electrical. Most of this stuff is all pretty quality stuff. If you look at the brands on a lot of these things, like the VFD and the controller and all the things that are in here, the breakers or Schneider breakers, I mean, this is all quality electrical components. And I believe that's a AC controller, all your breakers, power supplies, all those things. These are all like Schneider is a really good brand. So this is all good stuff. I feel like you're probably going to be better off if you can find a company like RMT that doesn't source out all of their electrical components to come from China. I also like that it has a filter on it, so you're not sucking all that dust in the shop in. That is something that you're going to want to pay attention to. You're going to want to keep clean, so just keep that in mind. Okay, well, I think we've gone over all the basic reasons that I liked this saw, that I chose this saw. So we've got a little bit of work to do over here to get it set up for this. Like I said, I've got to change my electrical over there to run on single phase, so I'm going to do that. I've got to clean up the roller table, and I think I'm going to have to adjust the height on my roller table to work for this saw because it's going to be a little bit shorter than the old one. And I've also got to decide if I'm going to put this up on a base. I had my old one on a base because I like to get the saw up to where I'm not bending over. So I'm going to set this on the floor and see what the height is and see how I like it. If I need to put the saw up on some tube or build a base for it, we'll do that. But when we get everything all situated and we get ready to put the saw in place, we'll come back to you. All right, guys, we got the saw placed over here with the forklift, but I'm going to use the crane to set it in place and try to get it set right where we want it and leveled up. We did sweep this out, cleaned it up. We had to move some material because I think the footprint is significantly bigger. So let's see how this goes. Now we need to be, I want to be square. Woo! All right, guys, it's the next day. We did get the saw in place and we did get it wired up. I've leveled the saw, but now I need to level the saw with my roller table Some other useful information: the roller that mounts to the side of the bandsaw, and then these trays. I'm not sure where they go yet, but we'll show you. And then the hardware for mounting the roller was all in the compartment in the back. So I'll show you guys that compartment. That's where your flood coolant goes, and the pump, and your hydraulic pump. That's all back there. It's pretty nice. We're gonna get this roller installed and leveled up with the platform on the bandsaw. We'll do that now. Okay, so we're level both ways. We've got our roller that goes on the side of the saw level and just a whisker above the platform here. Now I need to level the roller table and put coolant in the saw, and then we'll be able to test it out. Now I do want to show you guys this. This is pretty cool. So there's a panel on the back here. It's 4 screws. It's got a handle in it. You pull that off. The hydraulic pump is right there, and all the hydraulic valves. Something else that I'm impressed with on this saw, those valves are actually Eaton hydraulic valves. Eaton makes really good electronic equipment, so that speaks volumes. There's the coolant pump. It looks to be good quality as well. I like the way that the pan works. So this pan sits inside this pan, and you can see they're perforated, both of them. Okay, so that one's perforated as well. You can see here there's a filter. So I'm sure that's one of the maintenance items. I'll have to make sure that I check that. So I'll pour the fluid in here, and I'll make sure that stays full. One of the things they mentioned when I was picking up the saw is making sure that you don't run the pump dry so you don't burn it up. That goes for both the hydraulic pump and the flood coolant pump. Alright, so since I'm already here, I'm going to go ahead and fill up the coolant, and we'll get that all buttoned up, and that'll be ready to go. And then the last thing to do is going to be to get the table leveled up. So we'll go ahead and fill the flood coolant now. Alright, now I realize this is a little tight for my setup, but we should be okay. So I'm going to scoot this back in gently. Try not to spill. Okay, so that pan sits right under this drain. I'm going to leave the panel off until I know that everything's functioning properly. Alright guys, found a couple other things here. So this little drip pan thing, I believe it goes here on the edge. I don't know if you guys remember, but on the old bandsaw I used to keep a 5-gallon bucket here so that when you're cutting material, the fluid that's running out of the end of the tube you're cutting doesn't drip on the floor. I believe that's what this is for. So if you're cutting something that's, you know, relatively small, the fluid that's coming out can hit this drip pan and stay in the bed here and catch the fluid. So that's pretty cool. I like that it's easily removable. I'll probably just keep it up here out of the way, and then if I need it, I'll be able to use it. Another thing, there is oil on the bare metal parts on the machine. I don't know if it's Cosmoline or if it's just some kind of oil with rust inhibitors in it. I'm sure it's to keep the machine clean and keep it from rusting when it's in transit. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to wipe. I'm not going to go crazy, but I'm just going to wipe it down, try to wipe some of that off. I don't know. I'm sure that a lot of people would just run it and maybe it doesn't matter. I just worry about it going through the pump and maybe causing issues, so I'm just going to go ahead and wipe some of the bulk of this down. And there is a fair amount on these metal parts. I don't want to wipe too much off of this because this is a friction surface, so you probably want to leave some on this because this needs to ride up and down. Another thing that you want to do, the maintenance tech told me you want to make sure to keep this clean because these bearings in here, if they get gummed up, if you get a bunch of crap in there, sometimes this can stick. All right, guys, so here's something else of value. This is the part stop that comes with the machine. This was also stored in the cabinet underneath, and it was wrapped in shrink wrap. Everything looks really good. You can see it's got a ruler on it. Just from screwing with this for just a few minutes, it seems like it works well. It actually slides in this hole, and then you'll feel a solid stop in there. So one recommendation I have, this screw, you don't want to lock that down on that ruler like that. If you're going to lock it down, I would lock it down any other surface but the ruler, because if you lock it down on the ruler, hopefully you can see that little ring. Eventually you're going to end up wearing the marks off your ruler. If it was me, I would turn it so that you can lock it down on any other surface but that one. I'm just going to leave that here on the side. When I need it, it's there. I also wanted to show you guys inside the panel where I wired it up. I did have to call the tech just to get clarification because I didn't want to wire it up wrong. So I chatted with their technician in Georgia today. Super nice guy, very helpful. They seem like they have great service. So far I'm pretty impressed. So let's look in the cabinet now and I'll show you guys where the wires go. So let's look inside the cabinet now and I'll show you guys where the wires go when you have to wire this up. Okay, so it comes with a key. So you're able to open this. Now inside the cabinet, you've got some colored terminal blocks here. There's a green and 2 orange. So you can see right there, there's 2 orange blocks and a green PE block. So the PE block on the far right, the S block and the R block is where I had to wire this up. Obviously for your machine it could be a little different. If you have a 3-phase machine, you're going to have 3 orange blocks. But where this one is 230 volts single phase power, you're going to have 2 orange blocks and a green block. Something else I would mention, if you're not comfortable doing the electrical, get a professional to help you. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but they give you a manometer. A manometer. Man, oh man. So what you do is you put your finger on here and it'll tell you what kind of man you are. And you can see I'm right in the green. So, feeling pretty good about that. This is the hydraulic blade tension, and you want to have it right in that green zone. I'm not sure if that's actually pronounced manometer or manometer. I'm going to call it a manometer because I think it sounds cool. You can see there it says it should be between 2175 and 2465. It looks like that's right where it is, so we should be good there. I'm sure you guys are sick of me talking. I'm going to level up the roller table. We'll throw a piece of steel in this and see how she does. Alright, so this is time consuming, but it's worth your while. Take the extra time, make sure your roller table is level, and make sure that it's in line with the bed on your saw. We're all good to go here. Now we're ready to try cutting a piece of material. It's a good thing because I'm getting impatient. Okay, sorry. One more thing before we get started. I actually just noticed this. Okay, so if you look at this motor, a lot of time motors like this, when they're shipped, they have some sort of plug to keep oil from leaking out of the breather. So as motors heat up, the oil expands and it becomes less viscous. So there is a little rubber tab thing here. We need to pull that out. Boom. Okay, so we pull that out, and if you look back in here, there's actually a sticker there that tells you to pull this off before you operate it. So now this is going to be able to breathe and function properly as it heats up and cools down. All right. Moment of truth. Okay guys, so let's go through the controls on here. So first one, you got your power indicator, so power's on. You can see this one's blinking. That's the broken blade sensor. I really like that it blinks when an e-stop is pushed, so you know, okay, there's an e-stop pushed somewhere. So if I release that, you can hear the pump just started up. Okay, so you got your start button, you got your stop button, and then this has a laser that lines up with the blade. so that's your off and on for your laser. Here's your hydraulic needle valve that controls the bow down feed speed. So the faster you want to drop your bow, you open it more, and the slower you want to drop it, you close it more. E-stop, okay, and then we've got our flood coolant. This dial controls the blade speed. So feet per minute in blade speed, that is going to be a game changer. There is a chart in the manual that'll tell you what speed you should be running your blade, depending on what type of material and what size of material. So you want to keep that in mind. There is a semi-automatic and a manual mode here. So if I switch this, it goes back and forth. And then we've got our bow up and down. And this saw does hydraulically lift the bow up and down. Okay, so if I switch this to manual mode, you can hear it started the pump, and now I'm going to be able to raise the bow here. And remember, if you want to go down, you need to open the hydraulic valve, and then you can go down. So I've got a piece of 4x4 square tube here. I'm going to put this in the saw, and I believe if I crank this down, I don't need to go all the way on this. So I can crank it down manually, but I don't need to. Okay, so if I just go close, I'm within a 1/4 inch there. I believe if I hit start, I believe the vise will close. Let's try it. Vise closed. Okay, it's tight. We're in manual mode right now, so I'm going to go ahead and start it. I'm going to make sure my hydraulic valve's closed though, so we don't have a wreck. Okay, and then you want to make sure you don't over tighten this valve. It's a hydraulic valve, you don't need to crank on that thing. Okay, so I've got the valve closed. I'm going to hit start and see what happens. I actually want to... Okay, so I've got the laser on, and it doesn't look like it's lined up at all, so we'll have to fix that. Okay, the saw is running. Now, I need to make sure my flood coolant is on, but the valves are closed. So I'm going to open these. Okay guys, I think I figured out the coolant situation. So we're ready to try cutting this. I've got the blade lowered. I think it takes a second to purge the air out. I think for the first cut, I want to try it in semi-automatic mode. So if I hit start in semi-automatic mode, the vise should close, lock down the material, the blade should start turning, and then it should start cutting. So here we go. Let's try it. There goes the vise. It's locked it in. It's tight. Okay, now all I have to do is open my valve here and start it down feeding. Okay, so camera died in the middle of that. It did do a good job. Looks really square. Cut looks good. I do think that maybe the blade, I don't know if it's from sitting in one position for so long with tension on it. I don't know. But it seems like as the blade goes around, there's a spot in it that's noisier than the rest. I'm gonna have to order some blades. You know, I don't think it's going to hurt anything to run it like this. It's just a little bit noisy. Okay, now that we've made our first cut, now this is one of the other things that I'm super excited with about this bandsaw. So this foot pedal here that it comes with. Okay, so it comes with a foot pedal. Let's say I'm cutting a bunch of parts, and I could actually set up my part stop here, and then I slide this down. Okay, it hits my part stop. I need to cut another, I don't know, 2-inch part, whatever it may be. Slide that out, And then if I hit the pedal, it should close the vise, start the saw, make a cut, and then raise back up and open the vise again so that I can do the exact same thing. So let's see what happens. Okay, so I hit the pedal, vise is closing, saw starts. I've left the hydraulic valve open, so it's started to draw by itself. Okay, so it completed its cut. Now the saw is going to raise back up when it hits the bottom. Okay, so it's raising back up. Okay, now the vise is going to open. Boom. Okay, so now I could take this piece. I can slide this back out. And then I could hit the pedal again and it'll start another cut. So, you know, if you've got a lot of parts to cut, that cuts a lot of time down. Compared to what I'm used to, that'll cut a lot of time down. So, I'm super excited. And I think, yeah, the hydraulic pump is on a timer when you're in semi-auto mode. So, it just shut off. So I like that. You know, if I got busy doing something and I walked away, the pump's not just going to sit and run. It'll shut off after, I don't know, 30 seconds or something is what it seems like. So that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to buy another blade. I don't like how it's jumping. So I'm going to buy another blade and throw that in here, and then we'll give it another test. It might take me a couple days to get another blade, but I'll catch up with you guys when I get to that point. Okay guys, it's been a few days because I wanted to order some new blades. Like I mentioned before, this blade, I don't know if it got bent in shipping or what happened, but it's also a very coarse tooth pattern. And so I like running a 5/8 tooth pitch for what I do. So you can see there's two different tooth pitches on there. And I also like running the Lennox blades. These Lennox QXP blades have been awesome for me. They last a long time. I don't feel like I have a hard time breaking them in. They've just been really good for me. So we're gonna go ahead and put a new blade on this. The other reason I thought this would be good, and the reason I waited to put the video together and get this posted, is because I thought it would be good to show how you can change a blade on this saw. This one's a little bit different. You change it from the bottom side instead of the top side. So there's some knobs here. So we'll take these knobs off. And I haven't really done this yet, so okay, so unfortunately my saw, this cover is going to hit my metal rack, so I probably need to move it. So I'm just going to go ahead and stand in here. I've made sure that the e-stop is on and or the saw is off. The e-stop is on, so. Okay, so I've taken my blade guard off. All right, so the other thing we have to do is the blade brush here has 2 Allen wrenches on it, and it's just a slotted bracket. So that pops off. Okay, so I'm just going to stay on this side of the saw. Okay. There we go. Pops right out. Okay, so then we'll take our new blade here. I always like to be careful when I'm unwinding these, because they get a little, they can get a little wild on you. So we'll stick this blade back in here, teeth down. I did notice there's 2 greasable bearings in here, so that's just another one of those things we'll want to keep our eye on. I like to just twist my blade, get it up in those guides. I'm trying to give you guys the best angle possible. Anyway, this is just about ready to start tightening up. Just kind of check everything as I go, and it will settle where it needs to once it goes around a couple times, but I just like to make sure that it's seated as good as possible. I'll go ahead and get these knobs put back on. Those are all tight. Now we'll get our bracket put back on here. And then we'll get our blade brush put back on. Okay, so the last thing to do is I'm going to tighten this to where I'm in the green. And there is a switch on here. Once I tighten this down to where I have enough pressure on the blade, this light will quit blinking. And then it will be able to turn on. But this light was blinking, and now I'm starting to come into the sweet spot here for blade pressure. So that's right where it needs to be, right in the green. Now I'm going to go ahead and start it. Okay, so the blade's kind of settled in and it's actually dropped a little bit, so I'm going to tighten it back up to the sweet spot. And this blade sounds like it's running really smooth. Alright, so now all we got to do is break in our blade, and then I've got some material I need to cut for the project we're working on here. It's some 3x5 by 3/8 wall rec tube. Should be the perfect thing to test out on this. I'm just going to use some heavy wall stuff to break this blade in. So I've got some 2x2 by quarter. I've got some 2x2 by quarter wall tube here, and I'm just going to run it really slow. That's just how I was taught to break the blade in. You want to go really slow, and you want to break those teeth in really slow. Maintain normal rate of bend speed. Use 0 to 1/3 normal feed pressure rate. So we're going to keep the speed on the blade normal, but we want our down feed speed to be 1/3 of what we would usually use, so it's going really slow. So it says gradually increase feed pressure when blade is well in the work, so that you reach a normal cutting rate when you have cut 50 to 100 square inches. So that's what we're going to do to break it in. So we'll break it in, and then we'll see if this blade performs a little better. I'm confident that it will because it doesn't have a bend in it. Bring that bucket of coolant over here, will you? Okay, so it's running really slow. So we're just gonna let it break in. All right, guys, final thoughts. The saw is a huge upgrade to the shop. It is much quicker to run when I'm cutting multiple parts. It's much more capable doing miter cuts. It's really more user-friendly. There is more to learn on the control panel, but once you learn it, it's more efficient. It's easier to use. You don't have to lift the bow every time. The machine just does it. Everything seems really good quality-wise. I'm really impressed with that. The salesman did inform me that they were made in Turkey, but he also said that they hold them to very strict standards. And he also told me that a lot of the components that they put in their saws are either American-made, German-made. They're all reputable brands of components. So I do like that. I've had the saw now for probably 2 weeks. and I absolutely love it. I don't know that there's really anything I can complain about at this point. There was some things that were kind of hard to get used to at first. Changing the blade was one. I've only had to change the blade once, and that's just because I got new blades, and the one that it came with had a little bit of a bend in it. And so I just thought, well, I want to swap it out and see how smooth it runs with a straight, brand new, clean blade, and it runs awesome. After I swapped that blade out and realized that this has a double hinge, and so you're able to get it clear up out of the way, that completely changed my opinion on the blade changing process as well. So I really don't have anything to complain about. I love it. If you guys are interested in an RMT bandsaw, get online, check them out. I'm going to leave a link in the description. Or for that matter, if you're interested in any RMT equipment, get on there and check it out. I did not realize how much equipment they actually sell. I would eventually like to get an H-frame press, and they make several different sizes of H-frame press. I would eventually like to get an H-frame press, and I didn't realize that RMT made several different models, several different sizes of H-frame hydraulic presses, and so I've been kind of looking at that. I would eventually like to get one for, pressing bearings, pressing pump shafts out, broaching things, stuff like that. So I've been impressed with their service. I've been impressed with their equipment. So check out the link below. Get on there and look at their equipment. I would just like to thank RMT for making this a quick and painless process. I'd like to thank all of you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. See you on the next one. So we'll go over the details on what the foot built. Goodness. The roller for the side of the roller that mounts on the side of the bandsaw. So the roller on the side of goodness. So the roller that mounts on the side of the body of the bound. Goodness. Something else that's good to know. The roller. Goodness. So something else that's good to know. The roller. And then these two little trays. I might have to look and see where those go. And then some. Goodness. Right here. Important break-in instructions. Important break-in instructions. And then it says gradually increase. Goodness. Then it says gradually increase feed pressure when so you guys, if you guys are interested in any RMT, if you guys are in just one that runs on, I don't know, single phase 220 or three phase 220. So another huge one for me was the capability. Goodness. Another huge one for me. So the dimensions of this saw are 13. It's a 13/18, so it'll do 13 inches tall. No, it's an 11/16. No, idiot, it's 10/14. It's right there.